Ladies and gentlemen, joining me on the line, she is the regional communications manager for the Red Cross in Nebraska and Iowa. Did I get it right?
You did.
Awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, Emily Holley is on the line. Hey, Emily, how we doing today?
I am doing great. I'm so happy to talk to you.
Now, let's talk the Red Cross, the American Red Cross. It's been a busy summer here in Iowa.
Very much so, yes.
I was going to say, I mean, it's kind of hard to dive into this, but Red Cross has been all over the state this year. I mean, we've had flooding, we've had tornadoes, we've had, all kinds of this stuff. What's the summer been like for you guys?
Well, I mean, like you said, it's been busy. We've been very fortunate in that for the last few years, we haven't had a string of disasters back to back. However, this summer we really have. It's almost been, my boss and I were talking about how it's almost been like about every 3 to 4 weeks something happens that we need to respond to, and that's really a reflection of what the Red Cross is seeing throughout the country as a whole. We've seen an uptick in extreme weather, and so we're seeing more incidents of these severe storms, and they're leaving a greater impact than they have in the past. And so we've ramped up our services all across the country, and we're responding to disasters, 24/7, especially during the summertime when we have wildfires, we have tornadoes, we have floods, we have hurricanes. So, yeah, it's been busy.
Emily Holley on the line with me from the American Red Cross. Emily, I just thought of this. What's it actually mean when the Red Cross shows up? Like, if there's flooding or a tornado or what have you, what happens when the American Red Cross shows up to help?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. When the Red Cross responds to a disaster, the type of response always depends on the disaster itself. And what we always like folks to know is that disaster response is always evolving. The way that we responded to a disaster today might be different tomorrow because things can shift really quickly.
Yeah.
Like the flooding in Northwest Iowa, when we first saw the rain coming through, we weren't necessarily sure of that impact until a few hours later. And so one of the things that we're always looking at are how can we best meet folks' immediate needs. And so when a disaster happens, the Red Cross steps in to meet those immediate needs. We want to make sure that folks have safe shelter. We want to make sure that folks have meals. And we want to make sure that folks are receiving the comfort and support that they need to get through that. And so in Northwest Iowa, for example, we have over 320 trained Red Cross volunteers that are providing that shelter, food, emotional, and spiritual support. We have a mental health team that deploys to help folks process. We have spiritual care that deploys. And so we really are trying to help folks process in that immediate disaster. And then down the line, we continue to work with folks. So that recovery process can be very long, especially depending on the disaster. And so we have volunteers that do recovery casework. And so they're regularly checking in on folks to make sure they have what they need. In those instances, we can help answer questions. We can connect them with other partners who might provide a different service. And so we're always working with folks. And so in Northwest Iowa, even after the news cameras leave, we are still there walking with people through that recovery process.
So the first part of that is a little bit of wait and see what they need. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. So after like the flooding in Northwest Iowa, what we did immediately was we opened up shelters.
Yeah.
And sometimes, when I talk about how a disaster is constantly evolving, sometimes those shelters have to relocate.
Yeah.
Based on, the number of folks who need shelter, based on the location of the disaster. We want to make sure that all of our shelters are accessible for people of any kind of ability. We want to make sure that our shelters have power because a lot of times we have to meet medical needs.
Mm-hmm.
We want to make sure there's space for everybody, and so we will sometimes move a shelter to make sure that folks are getting that support that they need. And some shelters will be open for weeks and some shelters will be open for days, and it really is based on that need. We want to make sure that we're not leaving anyone behind.
Emily Holley, the Regional Communication Manager for the American Red Cross in Nebraska and Iowa, joining me on the line. The ever popular question that everybody has, whether it's, there's a disaster going on or whether you just, feel like it, What's the best way for people to help?
Yeah, well, I'm going to tell everybody upfront that if you want to learn more about the Red Cross and the many ways you can help, definitely visit redcross.org. We have all sorts of things there, but one of the main reasons that folks can help, honestly, is to volunteer with the Red Cross. We have so many different volunteer positions available that really work around your schedule. You know, if you just have a couple hours a month and you want to support the Red Cross, we would love to have you. If you are, we have folks who are recently retired who want to stay active and stay busy, and so these are the folks who will deploy to those disaster responses for a couple of
Yeah.
weeks. And for example, we have a married couple from the Appalachian region up in Northwest Iowa right now, and they just joined the Red Cross about a year ago, and they're on their first deployment together, and it's just really great. We have a lot of volunteers like that.
I see at the website that explore opportunities, find your perfect fit. You can put in your zip code and a radius of, however many miles you want to do, and it'll give you the opportunities. That's very cool.
And it also will give you kind of the list of different things that you can do. You know, if you're a behind the scenes person, if you're someone who wants to volunteer from home, doing that recovery casework, like I
Yeah.
mentioned earlier, is a really great way to do that. We have volunteer positions available to work with me to help with our social media and to help get video and photos of what's going on the ground. And so helping us tell those stories, that's another volunteer position. And then, of course, another way that folks can support the Red Cross is to give blood. Something that we always like to note is that in a crisis or a disaster situation, it's the blood on the shelves that gets used first. And we want to always maintain that healthy blood supply. And so having folks give when they can is a really great way to do that. And again, at our website, you can type in your zip code and get a list of blood drives that are coming up, and you can schedule an appointment and make it happen.
Perfect. Emily Holley from the American Red Cross. She's a regional communication manager for Nebraska and Iowa. Emily, we'll let you get back to your day. I appreciate the time so much, and best of luck with everything the Red Cross has got going on this summer, okay?
Absolutely. Thank you so much.